Easy now. Papa got things making headlines.
Come down. Ooh, you make my high come down. Always tripping when you come around. I'ma have to cut you off, like right now. You see, I don't want to drive me. You can say that for your mama. Maybe you should smoke some. Me try the marijuana. I was never you good. The vibe was straight. Showed you a couple of things and they ain't finna change. I treated you right. Everything was a gift from a time to your bag and the color on your lip. Yeah, you
Welcome to the Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast, powered by The Athletic. Shout out to the company. My name is Michael-Shawn and I'm here with my co-host, Christopher Kidd. Make sure you follow us both up on the tweet machine. Go ahead and follow me on there at Mike Dugar, Mikedugar. I'm verified for now until Elon takes that away. Chris, talk to him.
What is up, everybody? It's your boy, Christopher Kidd. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at CKID206, and that's CKid206.
All right, this is our midweek episode. Just for a behind-the-scenes look. We're recording on Tuesday. By the time you guys hear this on Wednesday when it drops, I will be in the air on the way to Munich for the Germany game. Excited about that. The Seahawks are going to go over there and play the Bucs. The Bucs, who are first place in their division at 4-5. The Seahawks have first place in their division at 6-3. The plan for us is to have our special guest this week be Greg Auman, who covers the Bucs for The Athletic. That'll be later in the show. For now, Chris, maybe we should talk a little bit about this Seahawks team. It's fascinating the pivot, the state of both teams compared to what people maybe thought when they saw this game on the schedule. It might be like, damn, Brady and the Bucs might go over there to Germany and kick the Seahawks ass. Now that the game is here, it's the Seahawks might go to Germany and send Tom Brady back into another retirement with how good they've been. Before we get into some of the other stuff we want to talk about, I'm going to throw this question to you. What surprised you the most about either team so far through 9 weeks?
Well, for one, what's fascinating, you talked about when the schedule came out in, what was it, early May?
Yeah.
And we found out that the Seahawks would be taking on the Patriots, taking on the Buccaneers with Tom Brady. My head immediately went to the spread. Oh, Tampa Bay is going to be favored by 9 points, if not more, depending on how bad this Seahawks defense is. Can Geno muster up enough points on the offensive end? That's what I thought. It's going to be ugly. And here we are. The date has arrived. The game is on Sunday coming up. And the Buccaneers are favored by 2.5 points, which is crazy because the Seahawks have won how many games, Mike? 4 straight games.
4 in a row by double digits.
Double digits. And for some reason, they were saying, yeah, that's great, but Tom Brady was able to lead his team with 50-something seconds left in the game and win over the Los Angeles Rams on Sunday. That is fascinating that the Seahawks aren't favored. But now that the time is here, I think the Seahawks hear all the noise, and what's cool is they pay attention to that, whether they actually admit it or not. I've read multiple stories where some players, they pay attention to it. Coaches will never flat out say, yeah, we read what you say. They just throw some little jabs here and there, like, yeah, we hear what people are saying. We don't really care about it. But I guarantee you in that locker room, if Mike says, in a headline, Mike maybe has a strong criticism of how things are going, that'll be the headline into the locker room, like, oh, this is what Dugar thinks about how we're doing this season. Let's go and show these guys what we can do and do it for the whole season. And at first, the defense to start off this year was rocky. If the offense and the defense were on the same page, dare I say the Seahawks could be 9-0. That's the difference right there, is the fact that the defense wasn't playing on all cylinders. Maybe 8-1 because the 49ers game, they got crushed. Maybe I'm speaking too much hyperbole, but when you look at the totality of what this team has done over these past 9 weeks, it's really cool, man. Everybody had their doubts to start the season, and then you fast forward 9 weeks, and you're like, damn, this team could actually be in contention for a deep playoff run, and then that SB word starts to come into mind, Super Bowl. There's not one person listening to this podcast, Mike didn't believe it, I didn't believe it, that said this team could be on make it to the Super Bowl. Now, when we did the radio show over the summer and we had Ty Lockett in studio, what did Ty Lockett say? We believe we're Super Bowl contenders. And me and you look at each other like, yeah, all right, man. We get that you're going to say that because you believe it, but have you seen your roster, man? You had Geno Smith and Drew Lock trying to fight for the number one starting quarterback spot. They ain't going to get it done. And Geno is getting it done. He has proven to be an elite thrower in this game. He makes good decisions. He checks into the right plays. And then again, I talked about the defense. They have figured it out. You mentioned putting the best players on the field. Clint, Hurt, Pete, they have gotten together and figured out who their best guys are that are going to give them maximum production, and it shows. So I would say I am just stunned at how bad the Buccaneers are record-wise. Because if you look at the stats and the more information that you're getting about this team, it's weird. They lose 21-3 to a bad Carolina Panthers team. You read the stats, you're like, oh, how they only gave up 14 points defensively. So where'd the other touchdown come? I think it was maybe a pick six or something. Whatever the case may be, this team is a weird team. I understand they're giving a lot of credit to Tom Brady and what they have overall. They got Julio Jones, Mike Evans. They got dudes over there that can play football, but for whatever reason, it hasn't resulted in wins consistently. And now they're going up against a Seahawks team that has found the consistency. And everybody can rule them out. They know what they're capable of doing, Mike. You've been in the locker room. You've talked to the players. I'm sure they've told you over and over again, we know what we can do. We are aware of how good we can be. We have things circled on the calendar of goals that we want to reach and accomplish. Whether or not you, myself, fans believe it, they believe it. And I think that's the really cool part. And this game is huge for both teams. Huge for the Seahawks because if they win and they become 7-3, they're right at the heels of the Minnesota Vikings. They're right there. Eagles, they're just really, really good. Maybe it does come down to the Seahawks and Eagles, but winning on Sunday, knocking off Tom Brady, who a great comeback win on Sunday against the Rams. That I thought they were going to lose. And then Tom Brady flashed back to the past, and we can talk about that with our guest, Greg Auman, coming up later on in the show. But that has been impressive. Two teams are kind of jostling for position. More so the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because they're, as you mentioned, 4-5 in the NFC South, which is just really bad division right now. But then the NFC West, you got two good teams, and that's the Niners and the Seahawks. Either way, I'm not trying to throw shade here by putting the Niners first. I think the Seahawks are the better football team right now, but defensively, the Niners are getting healthy. It'll be a fun matchup as the year progresses, but I'm just shocked by how well the Seahawks have played so far through 9 games, and I'm kind of shocked at how bad the Buccaneers have been looking overall and just their record at 4-5. I wouldn't have thought that having this pod today that I'd be saying, oh man, the Seahawks are definitely going to be in position to really win this game and send a message to the NFC.
Yeah, the quarterbacks, I would say, and their relative performances are perhaps the most shocking thing to everyone, generally speaking, besides anyone in Geno's family, perhaps. Because you look at the two quarterbacks in the situation, and I just retweeted something where Geno's like a superimposed image of Geno is like put on a tower in Munich right now. Geno just quote tweeted it, and it just shows you just how wild this season is, that like the marquee player in this game is Geno Smith, which is just nuts. And it's not just that Geno's playing well that's surprising me, although that is part of it, is that Tom Brady just looks cooked. Because the Bucs aren't actually that bad. They're like let me see what they are in DVOA by Football Outsiders, which accounts for who they've played and all this stuff. The Bucs are 10th. The Seahawks are 5th, which is also surprising. But the Bucs are 10th. See, the Seahawks have the 10th best point differential. They're plus 21. The Bucs are only 15th at -2. They're like the best of the teams with the negative point differential. So those are just two metrics. So the teams are kind of pretty evenly matched in some regards. The Bucs have had a more consistent defense. Even in that game they lost to Carolina, the offense has scored 3.
Yeah,
that was more surprising. Carolina put up 21 against them, which is like more than you would think. But 21 in an NFL game is not like, oh my God, how did that happen? 3 points in the NFL game. Is the
With
surprise.
Tom Brady and the weapons you have, yeah.
Yeah, Brady threw 49 times for 290 yards and no touchdowns, obviously, because they scored 3 points. Yeah, that's the part that's kind of thrown me as we get to this point in the game, this point in the season. Is that it's not that the Seahawks are better. There was a world where that was the case. It's that why the Seahawks are better than the Bucs. It's that they have the better quarterback, and ain't nobody would have said that in April, in May, in June, July, August, or even September. No one would have said that in September, that the Seahawks have the better quarterback, even though Geno had a good game against the Falcons, but I think that was his last game in the month of September. It was October where the tide started to turn. But yeah, just 2 months ago, nobody would have said that the Seahawks have the best quarterback, and it's not even close. That's the other craziest part. The gap between Tom Brady and Geno Smith is wide, significantly wide. Like Tom's bad in a lot of areas statistically, and just you see the film. They could both sling some throws in there every once in a while. I mean, they honestly shouldn't have even needed that drive against that final drive to beat the Rams. Because when I watched the tape back, Scotty Miller drops a touchdown.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Good point.
Previous drive on 3rd and goal, I think he drops it, and then he drops it on 2nd and goal, and then Cade Otton, I think, drops one on 3rd and goal. And then on 4th down, he just has to throw into double coverage. And then they get the ball later and then drive down and score. But yeah, like they had the game, quote unquote, won twice to me before having to need that for needing that drive. So but still, that would have only been what? How many points did they score to win the game? 15, something like that. 16 it wasn't great. So yeah, the quarterback play you just couldn't have. If someone would have been able to forecast that Geno is so much better than Tom in the year 2022, like that, hopefully that person bought some Powerball tickets or Mega Millions, whatever, went to the casino, because that's vision that no one would have had. The Seahawks wouldn't even have told you that. They would have thought Brady's having a good year, and so is Geno. And it's not even really close. Geno has better MVP odds. Geno has better numbers across the board. Geno is like almost a lock to make the Pro Bowl in the NFC. Brady probably won't even be in the discussion unless he turns it around. So that's incredible. That's just unreal. Like I fully expect Geno to play better than Tom Brady in Munich. I do, even with the weapons that they have on their respective sides of the ball. The other thing that's kind of interesting in the matchup in particular, and I was thinking about this when I was doing a preview for or not a preview. I was doing my mid-season projections for the second half of the season, and I was looking at Seattle's run numbers, and they've had some pretty concerning numbers statistically. So Seattle, when it in terms of running the ball and either going for 0 yards or for negative yards, so you're either getting stuffed or you're losing yards, that happens to the Seahawks 23% of the time. That's the 5th highest rate in the league. That's bad. That's a lot of being behind the chains or behind schedule, or however you want to phrase that. And the Seahawks also run into loaded boxes, in this case, 8 or more defenders, so a stacked box. They run it into stacked boxes 45% of the time. That's damn near half, and that's the 5th highest rate in the league. So the Seahawks run into stacked boxes way more than they should, and when they do run into those, or not just when they run into those, when they run in general, they're going nowhere or going negative a lot of the time. Now, Kenneth Walker is one of the most explosive running backs in the league, so it's kind of balanced it out, but it's become a little bit of a feast or famine thing. Either Ken's going for like 20 or they're going for 0 or negative. And against some better defenses against the run, like we're about to see on Sunday, the Bucs have a fairly successful run defense. That's kind of concerning me a little bit. That's something I'm curious about, not only in this matchup, but going forward. These guys got Vita Vea. The Rams have Aaron Donald, who they're going to see twice in the back half of the season. The Rams have a nasty D-line and the 49ers have a nasty D-line and a nasty linebacker duo headlined by Fred Warner. The Jets defense is serious now. That's 4. I think those are 4 of the top 10 run defenses in the league. At least 4 games, could play the Rams twice. So that's 4 games against top 10 run defenses. And depending on what metric you want to use, I'm using success rate by True Media. So that's tough. This is the beginning of, Chris, what we're going to see is a really important stretch of, can the Seahawks run the ball against good teams? because Chris, we both know the Lions trash run defense. Unless they're playing the Packers. The Falcons, trash run defense. Chargers, trash run defense. The Cardinals are like okay-ish up front, but if you get behind their second level, like just get to the backers, you can go. So like they've played some anywhere from mediocre to bad run defenses, and now they're gonna get some bad ones too. The Chiefs are bad, the Raiders are bad, the Panthers are bad, but those other games that they're gonna play are going to be against teams that can stop the run a little better. So that's something I'm a little bit concerned about, or not concerned, just mostly curious going forward. Can they run the ball against better teams and avoid getting behind schedule? Because I don't care how good your offense is. When you're consistently in 2nd and 10 or 3rd and 10 or 3rd and 9 or even worse, 3rd and 11, 2nd and 11 and stuff like that, that's hard to overcome. So we need to see how they do against the Bucs in that regard and then how they do going forward.
Well, I think also we have to remember that at one point we questioned, could Geno really run the offense and pass the ball and make those tough throws? And he answered the call. They were listening, whether it be people reading stories, whatever the case may be, they heard it. And what did Pete do? Hey, we got to open up to Geno, let him throw because he can do it. And we're all like, eh. And then Geno responds, have you guys seen me throw? Like, I can do this is nothing to me. And they have figured that out. And it's not to say that they're going to figure out the run game and they're going to come out and have 100. Kenneth Walker's going to have 120 yards on the ground, a touchdown here and there. Travis Homer comes in 40-something yards. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but for the most part, they've answered the call. They've done it. Defensively, can this defense really turn it around? I didn't think they could. They were run out of time, if you ask me. After that Saints game, I was like, I don't know what you guys are seeing and what you guys can do. Maybe it got to a point where Mike's over here. Chris, man, send me some names that you see. What's the website called, Mike?
I've heard people refer to it as SPO-Track. I've been calling it Spot Track.
Okay.
But now I don't know.
Well, hey, Chris, go on SPO-Track. Look at some of those free agents and see who is the best available and send them to me. And maybe I can come up with an idea of who the Seahawks might go after the following week to help this defense get better. They didn't even do that, Mike. It was internal. They just made a few adjustments, figured it out, and then the following week, they put up a really solid defensive effort against a not great Arizona Cardinals team that's missing D-Hop, hold them to 9 points. The following week, they go up against the Chargers, who have Mike Williams.
Really 3 points in that Cardinals game because they scored on a blocked punt.
That's true. You're right. Yeah. And then they go up against the Chargers and only allow them to get 23 points. And shut down Mike Williams. Ken Allen doesn't even finish the game. I know he's banged up, but he was available and didn't really do much. So
and that game's really 21 points because the Chargers got a safety. You know, it's like
you get the point. So all I'm getting to is that the Seahawks, for the most part, have answered the call. And then when Mike's saying, okay, well, I'm curious about those negative run yards, it's either bang or bust. Well, okay, can they do that? Can they figure it out and sustain a positive run ratio against a decent Tampa Bay Buccaneers team? Can Kenneth Walker find daylight on multiple occasions? That's going to be the key. And then they got to continue out the season because, as you mentioned, 4 defenses that are pretty good, top 10 in the league, especially when it comes to stopping the run. That is going to be very fun to watch and see come this Sunday and for the rest of the season. Who thought we'd be talking about this with the Seahawks going into Week 10? I didn't.
Yeah, well, I knew that the run part would be important. Anytime you play a team that has Vita Vea, the run is going to be very important. That dude is serious, and he's just so big, and he's one of the guys who doesn't play with gloves.
He's just a nasty human with how you not play with gloves and you?
Yeah, no gloves. He has this like kick ass aesthetic. You know,
exactly.
Like I enjoy Jordan Brooks' football aesthetic. You know, he's got like the sleeves, the visor. Like Jordan looks very cool.
He looks violent.
Yeah, the only thing he's really missing is a single digit number. And if he had a single digit number with sleeves, I think he wore number 1 in college too.
Give him all pro just based off that.
Yeah, I think he has like an all pro football aesthetic. Let me see what Jordan. I gotta look up what number he wore in college, but I think it was a single digit number. Can you find that for me, Jordan? Jordan Brooks, Texas Tech. But yeah, Vita just has the exact opposite. He's like, nah, man, just give me my pads, give me my cleats, and I'm just gonna go kick somebody's ass, man. So
he was number one. You're correct.
He was number one. Okay, that's what I thought. So I think, I had a feeling we'd be talking about that. The other thing that I'm really interested in not only going forward, but in this game in particular, is the pass rush. Ready for some nerd stats, Chris? I got a couple nerd stats for you.
Let's do it, man. It's gonna start with you, Gina.
Maybe not nerd stats, but it just something I thought was interesting. Again, when I was kind of looking at the previewing the final 8 games of the season, kind of starting with this Bucs game. So the Seahawks, since week 6, which is when the turnaround happened, when Taysom Hill ran all over them. They only had 1 sack in that game. The Seahawks lead the league in sacks since week 6. They're at 19. The Patriots also have 19 because the Patriots defense on any given night can just shut people down. It's pretty impressive. They have games like they had against the Bears on Monday night, but for the most part, the Patriots can find out what you do well and shut that shit down. I was curious. I was like, how often are they blitzing to get that number? Because I think one pod that we had, I suggested that they blitz a little bit more to generate.
Yeah, we both did. We talked about it. Yeah,
and they've gone in the opposite direction. So since week 6, the Seahawks lead the league in sacks. They are last in blitz rate according to True Media. They're only blitzing 10% of the time and still getting home. That is incredibly impressive and something that I'm very curious if that regresses or if that continues. Because you look at Brady has a second lowest sack rate in the league.
Yeah, I
think it's like 3%, which is ridiculous. Like for reference, like Russ was usually like in double digits. Hell, let me see what I don't have it pulled up what Russ is in right now. But Russ is I do. Russ is at 9.2, which is the 4th highest in the league. Justin Fields, bless his heart, is at 15%. That boy's going to die before that rookie deal ends. 15% is insane. But yeah, like Russ is at 9%. Let me see where Geno's at. Where do you think Geno's at? Take a guess real quick before I pull it up.
Ooh, percentage-wise? I don't even know, man. Give me the answer. I don't even take a guess.
He is at 6.9%.
I was going to say 4.9, and I'm glad I didn't say anything. Thank you.
Yeah, 6.9, which is pretty. I think that's like top 10. So he's getting hit quite a bit, but like he gets sacked twice as often as Tom Brady, like that's pretty crazy. So it's like, can the Seahawks continue to get to the quarterback without having to send extra guys? Because once you do that, you keep the numbers advantage in coverage. You can bracket guys. You can put guys underneath the other team's best receivers, whether it's a Mike Evans or a Cooper Kupp or all the guys that the Niners can throw to, or whoever, Devontae Adams when they play the Raiders, DJ Moore when they play the Panthers. They're gonna, Travis Kelce when they play the Chiefs. They're gonna have games where it's just like you want that numbers advantage in coverage so you can kind of shut down the other team's passing game and get off the field. To do that, you want to be able to rush without sending extra guys. And I didn't think the Seahawks would be as good as they are without doing that. It's actually kind of scary to think about. A team loses Jamal, their best blitzer, and honestly one of their best pass rushers, and they just stop blitzing and then still have one of the better pass rushers in the league. I think even if you take out that from week 6 to 9 filter that I have on it, the Seahawks are still like, they're 6th in sack rate, just for the season. And they're 4th in total sacks for the season too. So the rate that they can get to the quarterback is really impressive without blitzing. Because we both agreed after whatever game it was like, send the soldiers. Go send the soldiers. And then nope, Shelby Harris and Poona Ford and Uchenna Nwosu decided
we don't need it.
We are the soldiers.
Yeah.
That's what they said. So I've been impressed by that, and that's something I want to see, particularly in this game, because I got one more nerd stat for you. Do I got time for one more?
Yeah, let's do it.
Tom Brady, I believe, has the fastest average time to throw in the league, according to True Media, 2.2 seconds. I saw it as 2.4 somewhere else. Maybe that's a next-gen number. Either way, he's the fastest in the league. So he's getting it out very fast, and he's not getting hit, which is smart for a 45-year-old guy playing football. I must say. But that's going to be put to the test, I think, against the Seahawks. And if they continuously let the ball get out quick, that's going to be tough. That is going to be tough, especially if they go back to where they was in tackling.
I also look their run game. They can't run the football, so the Seahawks definitely should have the advantage there. If they're just gonna throw quick passes, I'm very confident in Mike Jackson and Tariq Woolen and the DBs to stay in front of these guys and just make tackles on those quick passes, because that's what it comes down to, not missing. Because if you make one guy miss and there's a good block, okay, this becomes a problem. You saw that in the Sunday night game. Their first play of the game was a screen to a tight end. One guy misses a tackle and the tight end runs for 70 yards. Those are the little things that if you make the tackle, it's a no gain or a loss. That's the difference right there. So, yeah, if Tom Brady's going to be getting it out quick, okay, the Seahawks just have to really, and you mentioned, okay, can they continue to tackle as well as they are? Because if they regress, okay, yeah, this could be a game where 2.2 seconds, guys are making defenders miss, and that is causing points to be on the board. Guys are getting explosive plays. That becomes an issue. So you're right about that. Absolutely.
Yeah, man. If they got the soldiers up front and they're doing it, I would say they're doing it without a premier pass rusher, you know, like on paper, like a premier guy you would think of, a Myles Garrett, a TJ Watt, even a Brian Burns, you know, all these guys who are like the Micah Parsons. And Chenna Nwosu has been just right there, as good as all of those guys leading that charge. He's now becoming the guy, because I think I said this before too, and we said this in the past. It's very tough to just consistently not have a guy the other team has to double, because then the numbers are no longer in your favor. You're rushing 4. Well, they got 5 guys blocking. So unless they have to dedicate a second guy consistently to you, they have the numbers advantage, and it's going to be you guys. Everybody has to win a bunch of matchups that don't favor them. Whereas if they got to double a guy, well, then boom, there you go. You got some one-on-one matchups, and eventually you would like to think your guys, even if they're not premier dudes, can win one-on-one matchups. Chenna has become that guy very quickly, and it's crazy too, because we don't consider. I'm not saying we, like me and you, but I feel like Chenna is not perceived as like a young guy, quote unquote, because he's in year 5.
Yeah.
But like he's younger than Puna,
which is crazy.
Yeah, he's 25. Like he is. Is he the same age as LJ Collier?
No, I thought LJ was older, right? Isn't LJ like 27?
LJ is born in 1995 in September.
Okay,
so
you're doing math.
He is. I got you. Wikipedia handles that for us. He is 27.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, cool.
But he's only in year 4.
Yeah.
And then Chenna's in year 5, and he is 2 years younger than LJ. So like Chenna is one of those quote unquote young guys on their roster, which, man, a dude that's having his best season, getting better at 25. Yeah, that's I can see why the optimism on that side of the ball was there. Yeah, Chenna's the same age as Darrell Taylor. You know, and Darrell's considered one of the young guys as well. They got the pieces there. I was kind of referring to the D-line earlier in the year. It's like that's where all the veterans are, which it kind of is. Al Woods, you know, Puna, Q Jeff, Shelby. But then you got young athletic cats like DT and Chenna on the edge. That's impressive, man. That's dope.
Absolutely. Well, let's not waste any more time. We got our special guest, Greg Auman, about to join us via The Athletic, covers the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We're going to get into Tom Brady, maybe a little bit of Mike Evans, just the matchup-wise, because it should be a fun game. Right now, the Buccaneers are favored at 2.5. We'll see who he thinks is going to win the game, and we'll do that next here on Seahawks Man-to-Man Podcast.
All right, looks like we have Greg ready on the line. Again, Greg Auman covers the Bucs for The Athletic. I will see him in Munich here for this game. Greg, what's going on?
It's good to be in this country with you, Mike. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man, we got a lot of travel ahead of us. I told the listeners earlier, like by the time you guys are hearing this, me and Greg are probably in the air. I know I will be, and Greg's leaving, I think, Thursday to head out there. We had you on the podcast before, I think, for the 2019 game when the Seahawks were the Bucs were starting Jameis. And I think at that time, that's back when we were doing our predictions towards the end of the show and just having the guests do them, leave them out to dry, having them do it by themselves. We've been a little kinder this year. We're actually doing our predictions earlier in the show, and then everyone's going to do one. So we're not just going to leave you out to dry. However, you do have to go first.
Oh, wow.
You got to do that. Yep, we're gonna put you on the spot in that regard. Chris, what's the spread? Said 2.5.
Yes, it is the why do I keep saying Patriots? My goodness, Tampa Bay
'Cause they have
Buccaneers
Brady.
minus. Yes, but that shouldn't be an excuse. I've seen Brady for multiple years with the Bucs now. I should have this down. Bucs minus 2.5.
All right, give us a score, Greg.
Yeah, them beating the Rams makes it tougher because they were really bad for 3 games there. So to kind of get back on track a little bit, the offense has not gotten back on track, but the defense certainly did. The location makes it really hard to peg because they have no idea which team's going to handle the travel and the newness of being in another continent. I think the Bucs will be able to score. I don't know if they'll be able to stop Seattle from scoring right now. So I kind of like points. I like the over more than I like either side of the spread right now. If I were guessing right now, I'll say the Bucs pull it out. Something like 31-27. I think they'll score better than they have certainly in the last 5 games. So right now that's what it feels like. But again, all it takes is, we don't know if Antoine Winfield's going to play. We don't know if Julio's going to play. There's a couple still pretty big injury questions to get answered.
All right.
All right, Chris, you're up next.
Yep, I will go. I said this a few weeks ago. I'm done picking against the Seahawks. All right, I done lost a few games. Denver, for example, that was bad. But anywho, I'm going to take the Seahawks to win this game. I think Geno might have that game-winning drive. It's about that time. 9 weeks into the season, he's played really well. They're 6-3. We still haven't seen him close a game where he's leading this team with 2 minutes left or something, maybe 1 minute to a touchdown or a field goal. I'm going to say the Seahawks win a tight one, 27-24.
All right. I will. Mike. I'm gonna take the Seahawks as well. A lot even closer. I think I'm expecting actually both defenses to play well, because when I watched the game against the Rams, I saw a defense that those dudes looked pissed. They looked very pissed, like they had something to prove. And I mean, it helps that the Rams offense sucks. But so I'll take the Seahawks 21-20. Actually, I'm taking a very, very, very close one, man. Like this, it just feels like that. And it's like the Seahawks only like primetime game since Monday night. It's not primetime because it's like 9:30 Eastern, but
that's right.
it's the
early morning.
It's the window where they're the only game on.
Yeah,
which in effect becomes prime time. That's not prime, but like it's a solo shot.
And everybody's time zones are going to be so off; it'll feel like prime time no matter where you are. So,
yeah, it's just
exactly.
And fantasy football now has gotten a lot more people, I think, to open to the idea of waking up early for these games, so you can set your roster.
Yeah.
Depending on who's in some of these these games overseas. So, I'm going with I don't know how I'm doing good in our little expert picks thing. I saw, Chris. I'm like 71-51 or something.
You turned it around because you were so harsh on yourself earlier in the year.
Yeah, not looking good there. I was questioning the definition of expert with my picks there. Let's jump into. You want to jump into Brady first, Chris?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and kick things off because as you can see on the ticker there, rough season for Brady, and it's weird because he's also 45 years old. He's going through a divorce, so this question can go 1,000 different ways. And I've watched a few games. He doesn't look like he's bad, but for whatever reason, it doesn't result in wins. And they're 4-5 right now, looking to go 5-5, obviously. But how would you assess the struggles for Brady this season? What do you pinpoint? Okay, this is an area that he struggled with this season, whether it be health with receivers or the running game. What have you noticed that's been like, this is why Brady is struggling?
Yeah, it definitely hasn't been himself. I mean, the guy threw 43 touchdowns last year, and we're more than halfway through the season. He has 10. So a big drop off there. I mean, he's done the right things in terms of limiting his mistakes. He's being really, really careful not to throw picks. It's cool. If he throws, I think, 29 passes without a pick Sunday, he'll break the NFL record for most consecutive throws without a pick. It's like he used to have the record, then Aaron Rodgers broke his record, and now he's gone. I think he's at like 373 throws without a pick, which is crazy.
Wow.
But
that isn't.
Yeah, it's a cool number, but he's also doing it without really trying as hard to make plays and go downfield and take risks. They used to be, no risk it, no biscuit, and I don't even know what the slogan is this year. Really careful. I should come up with a better rhyme than that. So yeah, it's one of those where you mentioned there's things around him that it's not just Brady at 45. His offensive line isn't the same. He's got 2 young starters at left guard and center. They switched at left guard. Actually, they have a different starter now, a kid named Nick Leverett, who's been much better than the rookie Luke Gedeke they had in the first 6 games of the season. Receivers are not as open. Receivers are dropping passes. He hasn't had the same connection, even with guys like Evans and Godwin that he's been with for 3 years. Red zone has been a mess. Third down has been bad. Like their offense, 3rd and 7 or longer, they were converting 10%, 5 for 50 going into Sunday. It's crazy. It's literally the worst any team since 1994 has been. It's like the
nasty.
closest was the Marcus Russell Raiders team in 2008, which you don't often put Brady and Russell into the same conversation. They had 2 conversions on 3rd and long Sunday, so they're a little bit better there. It's like 14% now. So yeah, Brady, like I said, Brady, it's still really bad. And you get the sense that they're starting to get healthy. They're starting to get right. This defense got 2 big ones back. They got Akeem Hicks back Sunday. They got Carlton Davis back Sunday. They could get Antoine Winfield back in Munich. But yeah, the offense just hasn't been itself. Their running game is really bad, the worst in the NFL. In yards per game, the worst in NFL history.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. Worst in the league in yards per carry as well. So lots of areas where they can get better. It's just we keep thinking, oh, this is a get-right game or something like that, and it hasn't been. Even winning, I mean, for them to win Sunday was great, but they won. They didn't find the end zone until there were 9 seconds left in the game. So it's not really solving problems. It's just getting through them.
So you mentioned his touchdowns, 10. He's 30th in TD rate, so that just coincides with your point. Like, yeah, he's not taking much of a risk here. He's, hey, we're going to throw it away or just whatever the case may be. So he's not attacking the field, but attacking the DBs, I should say. So how do you think this matchup fares for them when the Seahawks have figured out who they are defensively? They have a young Tariq Woolen that's apparently getting bored, and you got Mike Evans, who is still, I would consider, an elite wide receiver, but for whatever reason, the connection between him and Brady hasn't been the same. Chris Godwin, I know he's coming off an injury. How do you see the Tampa Bay Buccaneers trying to attack the Seahawks, especially if their run game is it is bad?
Right. Yeah, I think they're going to throw it a lot. I mean, Brady threw it 58 times on Sunday. And I keep thinking like, take it easy on the old man's arm, find some offensive balance. But they don't run the ball well, so it's kind of hard to argue against just throwing like crazy. It's Godwin doesn't have a touchdown. We're in week 10, and Godwin doesn't have a touchdown. Mike Evans is getting yards consistently, but he only has 3 scores. Julio Jones has kind of come and gone with injury. Russell Gage has come and gone with injury. They definitely miss Rob Gronkowski. The touchdown that Cade Otton caught on Sunday was great. It was the first one by a tight end all season. So I don't know in terms of how aggressive they'll be or whether they'll attack. You want to say, oh, there's rookies out there. Maybe they start attacking. But Woolen's done really well. I mean, this in terms of rookie impact, Seattle's probably got the best team in the NFL. So as much as you say, oh, there's rookies, they should go after them, hasn't really gone well for other people that have tried that.
Real quick, last one for me and the Brady scenario, but also I kind of want to look at Leonard Fournette because he tweeted out, maybe it was a month ago, sorry, fantasy owners, like more touchdowns to come. What did you make of that, especially with how bad the running game has been? Did he not realize things probably won't get better, or was he really optimistic that they can turn things around and he's going to get in the end zone?
Yeah, Lenny, it's funny. You go back 2 years and like Fournette, was kind of, got cut by the Jaguars and then was kind of on the bench in Tampa and kind of caught a break in that Ronald Jones had COVID issues and then hurt his hand. And Lenny got to have that postseason run where he had, all these great games. He's getting touchdowns every week, going for 100 yards, basically helped take him to the Super Bowl. And he's not the same guy this year. I mean, he's been a step slower. He's the worst back in the NFL in short yardage. He's like 4 for 11 on 3rd and 1 this year.
Sheesh.
And some of that is not having the same blockers. I mean, he had a Pro Bowl guard and a Pro Bowl center last year, and they're both gone. But, he's in danger of kind of losing his carries. They got a rookie named Rashad White from Arizona State that's been really strong, that has kind of shown promise and is picking up a little bit more of the job share every week. And Lenny's run out of time. I mean, Lenny had 9 for 19 on Sunday, was on the field at the end, had a catch for like 4 yards on that final drive. to help them win, but hasn't really made plays. His longest run all season, I think, is 17 yards, and he's usually good for like a 40 run every once in a while. So yeah, I mean, this is, you don't know. This could be a game where things wake up. I mean, the Seahawks, I think, are giving up like 138 a game on the ground. It's not a good run defense, but I don't know that the Bucs are really well equipped to attack that and take advantage of that.
You said 9 for 19, like my man was going on a tour date.
Yeah,
9 for 19. It was like, and it's like opening drive. The Bucs have this thing where the fans get infuriated because Leftwich likes to run on first down, just likes to establish the run, and every time the Bucs run on first down, like Bucs Twitter loses their mind. And opening drive, they had 4 first downs, and they ran Fournette on 4 plays, and he got 11 yards out of 4 plays, which isn't even what they average. I think he had 5 for 11 on the opening drive, and again finished with 19 yards. So it's just, again, you'd sit there and say, "Wow, Seattle's given up some raw." Yeah, I mean, you look at, I forget which game it was. Somebody went for over 200 on Seattle running the ball. I think Atlanta had a good game against them running the ball.
Yeah, Cordell Patterson had a career day.
Yes, that's what it was. Cordell. So I mean, again, that he's like, well, maybe they could. They have not had a good run game since week 1 against Dallas. They're averaging like literally 60 yards a game right now.
Yeah, every stat.
Walker, like Kenneth Walker has more rushing yards than the Bucs do, more than halfway through the season.
Every stat Greg has given us in this just short time he's been on the show has been just insane.
Yeah.
Just insane. The 10% on third and what was 7 or longer? So third, was that what it was?
Yeah,
37?
37.
It's not like it's 3rd and 11 or longer. 3rd and 7. Like, I'm not even sure you can count that as 3rd and long. 5 conversions all season before they had 2 on Sunday.
Oof,
That's nasty.
No, that you almost got to work hard to be that bad. Like that's especially when you have decent tackles too, like offensive tackles. I mean, like
right. Yeah, I keep looking. I went back like year by year trying to find another 10% 3rd and long, and there are years where like the worst team in the league is at like 18%. Like the worst team in the league doesn't have Tom Brady at quarterback, doesn't have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, like twice as good on 3rd and long as the Bucs have been. It's bad.
So my thing on the offense with the Bucs that I noticed in the actually going back in like the opener against Dallas after they won the Super Bowl, right? They opened on Thursday night against Dallas, I believe, and neither team ran the ball like at all in that game. Dak threw it a ton and Tom threw it a ton, and it was week 1, make nothing of it. And you just kind of follow both teams going forward, and you're like, wait, both of these teams seem allergic to it. I think the Dallas has kind of gotten back to it a little bit.
Right.
But not only do the Bucs not run it well, they just don't do it at all. Like, as you probably know, you got all these stats, but last in rushing attempts per game. So I'm sure you guys have asked Leftwich and Todd Bowles, the head coach now. I get not being very good at it. It kind of just happens. But why aren't they even running the ball that often?
Right. Well, and it's tough because they don't. They'll have games where they're not behind by more than like a touchdown, and they'll abandon the run, like as if they were down 17 or something. They ran the ball 20 times against the Rams. It was only good for like 51 yards, but 20 times. And again, like Brady threw 722 passes last year. It's the second most in NFL history, right? There's like one Stafford year in the 16-game era that's more, and that's it. And he's on pace for more than that this year. Every year I keep thinking, like, take it easy. He's got a bum shoulder. Don't maybe throw it. And again, they won, but they won with him throwing 58 passes on Sunday against the Rams. No picks, which is awesome. He's only had one more game in his entire career where he's had more throws and not a pick, just once. Anytime Tom Brady's still doing things like for the first or second time, I figure it's interesting at least because he's had like 350 games or whatever it is.
Yeah, the insistence on not the insistence, but that just is fascinating. That's the number that jumped out to me. Yeah, it was like their neutral down pass rate according to rbsdm.com. Shout out to the homie Ben Baldwin. It's just I think they're ninth. It's just high. You would think it would be not the opposite, but like I'm sure Pete Carroll probably watches Bucs film and like, ugh, it's a lot of throwing when your quarterback's that.
Again, like you figure, okay, strange situation, a little bit colder. Maybe they try and run it. It's like the one thing they did do is kind of get away from being so Lenny focused in the run game Sunday. Rachaad White, the rookie, had more yards than Lenny. Like their number 3 back hadn't had an offensive snap all season. So it's like, even though you have the worst run game in the NFL, you're not going to try anybody else there either. And he had his first two. He had 2 carries for 4 yards. So it's like, okay, that's why. But yeah, so again, I sit here and I say, well, maybe they run the ball. Maybe they, run it 28 times for 90 yards, and it's a wild success against Seattle on Sunday. I don't know.
Yeah, that's Chris, go ahead and I know you want to talk about Michael a little bit. Go ahead. I'm gonna jump in at some point with I want to just pull up Seattle's run numbers since Taysom Hill and Alvin Kamara combined for 200 against them. I'm sure I got to match Greg with the stats here because he's got everything. So let me pull something. Go ahead though on Mike.
While Mike looks up that stat, I'm curious. You mentioned this could be the game they figure out the run game. They 98 yards on 20 plus carries. Okay, but where you mentioned with Tom Brady throwing it 50 times, right? Do you like the matchup that is between the Seahawks where, okay, you still have Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. Who do you think has the advantage there in that regard? Are you saying, Seahawks defense, they might be able to slow things down, or you like the fact that the Tampa Bay Bucs are getting it out quick? Tom Brady's 2.2 seconds, ball's out, getting into receivers' hands where they're creating separation or getting a key block here and there, making tackles. Who do you think has the advantage, the wide receivers or the Seahawks DBs in this matchup?
I mean, it should be the Bucs receivers. They're certainly more established. I mean, again, I've been so impressed with what Seattle's done with so many young guys all over the field. But Mike Evans, I mean, for whatever reason, he and Brady have kind of regressed this year. I mean, he had that, if you remember the Carolina game, the opening play gets behind the defense, what would have been like a 65-yard touchdown. And it's flat out dropped it off his hands, inexcusable. And Mike said, Mike kind of went into a dark place. He realized how bad it was to miss that catch. And then even Ravens, I mean, he had a ball that bruised his sternum. It hit him so squarely on a deep ball that would have been, again, 40 yards. So they haven't connected. Evans I think he has 600 some yards receiving, but they haven't really had the, it's kind of like because the pressure on Brady seems to get to him a little more this year. He's just very content to short dump offs, intermediate passes. I mean, they went into that last drive Sunday against the Rams, and the first play was this 28-yard throw to the tight end, Cade Otton, and that was their longest play. That was the first time they had a play longer than 20 yards in the game. So again, it's right now, for whatever reason, it's just Brady is being extremely careful. The focus is getting rid of the ball quickly, not turning it over. If it means you don't score, so be it. Their 4 wins this year, it's crazy. Their 4 wins this year, they've scored 21 or less in all of them. And that wasn't the Bucs MO at all. 2 years ago, they were averaging 30 points a game. I think they scored at least 24 in 7 of their first 8. Where every game, it's if you got to 30 points, you're great. Here, they're winning these, Tony Dungy style defensive stalemates where, again, you don't get a touchdown to the last minute and you still somehow win. I don't know that Seattle will be like that. It's kind of hard to tell what the style of this game will be. But yeah, I do think, as I've thought for a while, I mean, Chris Godwin, for him to be sitting where he is right now, even coming off an injury, he shouldn't be without a touchdown in week 10, knowing the guy he is. Maybe that changes. Maybe Germany is what brings it out of him. I don't know. But yeah, it's an opportunity for him. As good as Woolen's been, as good as this defense has been, there's definitely an opportunity. They have the more experience there. Whether that shows on Sunday, I don't know.
All right, I got the stat for you guys.
All right.
It's not as good as some of the ones Greg's been bringing. He's right. The Seahawks for the year giving up $138 on the ground, which is not good. That is objectively bad. Since Taysom Hill and Alvin Kamara ran all over them, combining for over 200 yards, the first time a Pete Carroll defense has allowed that to happen. They are allowing 90. Yeah, I'm trying. So I got it in my stat bag real quick.
Yeah,
since week 6 to the last 4 weeks, the Seahawks are only allowing 99.3 rushing yards per game, which is the 8th lowest mark in the league. So they've tightened up. They went from being a really bad run defense that could get run all over by Jamal Williams, Taysom Hill, Cordell Patterson, to now being, a top 10 run defense. So it depends on which version of the Seahawks shows up. I had to just jump in there. I was like, I need some stats.
Oh, yeah. I think we'll probably see a lot of throws. Whether Geno can keep up with Brady attempt for attempt, I don't know, but probably a lot of throws.
We're going to find out for sure. I want to look at the defense real quick because I'm just confused. Okay, because I'm gonna be real. Like I looked at the stats, I'm like they're 5th and giving up points per game at 18, but they're losing. Oh, their offense is really, really bad. So it'd help if your offense scored. What is your take on the defense? Is the defense good? Is it bad? Is it somewhere in the middle? What am I missing?
I think they're good, and I think they've probably even like exceeded expectations. Part of the problem is that they've been hurt, as they were last year. DB's hurt all over the place. They didn't have Akeem Hicks for 7 games. He's a big part of their run defense. Having him there frees up Vita Vea a lot. Vita Vea had 2 sacks. Washington guy, obviously you guys know him from back then. Again, Carlton Davis was they were down 3 of their top 4 DBs for basically a month. So they're getting back to that. The other thing, again, is that this offense keeps putting them back on the field. You go to the Carolina game, the Baltimore game, they just got tired. I mean, it's like if the time of possession is 2-1 against you, eventually your defense is going to look gassed. So Carolina ran for 139 in the second half, and Carolina is a 2-win team, not a good team. That's like the day after they traded Christian McCaffrey, they gashed them for an entire half running the ball with backups. And then Baltimore, which has a great run offense, don't get me wrong, Baltimore ran for 204 in the second half on this defense. Damn. So what Sunday did that was a step in the right direction is they played well for the entire game. They held the Rams in check. They lost Cooper Kupp for 1 play, gave up a long touchdown, but save that, they kept them pretty much in check. Fourth quarter, Bucs had 3 3-and-outs on defense. They held the Rams to 4 yards for the quarter, and that's why they were able to win. So if that's the defense that travels to Munich, they're in good shape, but hasn't been who they've been all year long. I think this defense has definitely been the better side of this team and will only be more so as they get more healthy. If they get Winfield back, that's a huge, huge help. But again, it's like they don't want to be winning games 16-13. That's not the way they usually do things here.
That's fair. How's your confidence level in slowing down this new regime with Geno Smith, who is – think about this. Geno Smith is playing better football than Tom Brady. Who would have thought of that back in August, even in September? So how confident are you that this defense can just not get too exhausted? You're hoping that the offense is out there at least putting points on the board and sustaining long drives, but how confident in this defense going up against Seahawks, especially with DK Metcalf, Ty Lockett, and Kenneth Walker III, who seems to be the next Le'Veon Bell or Barry Sanders for all I know.
Right. And Walker they might fear Walker more than those receivers right now. Like if they have their 2 best corners, if they have Davis and Dean, they should be able to kind of run with Lockett, keep Metcalf in check. They've been a pretty sound secondary when they're healthy. The run defense has not been good. And maybe Hicks healthy changes things. Maybe that gets them back to who they want to be because they haven't had him for so long. But this is a really good run game. I mean, Walker has done extremely well. The Bucs, as a general rule, will try and take away your run first. So they'll definitely try and put it on Geno and task him with beating them. And that's 2 great receivers to throw to. They've had games where they let number ones look like number ones. I mean, Cooper Kupp for a half looked like he was going to go for about 200, and they kind of got and figured out a little bit better. So, I don't know. I mean, at some point, it's like it's funny to talk to you guys because Seattle. I mean, for you guys, this is probably in terms of teams exceeding expectations and surprising people. You guys are right there. I mean, maybe Giants, you'd say, are kind of in that same boat, but it's great. I mean, for them to be where they are at 6-3. Is outstanding, and the Bucs are in the opposite. Bucs are in first place, but only because they're in a bad division right now. So there's kind of that, okay, is there going to be a regression to mean? Are these teams going to start looking like what we thought they were, or are they going to keep being who they are this year? That's what we have to figure out.
Yeah, the Seahawks are the shock of the league to me. The Jets being good, a little surprising as well. Right. The Giants, I actually think they're good. So that one's a little. Before they played the Seahawks, they were 6-1, and they were 6-1 in 1-score games as well. Right. Like every game they played was by 1 score, and they just happened to win 6 of them. As covering the Seahawks for as long as I have, I know that's gonna come back on you at some point. It always the ball is shaped too funny. And I joke about the shape of the ball, but it really does matter. Like whether it bounces to you on
it'll
a fumble,
bounce the other way eventually. Yeah.
Yeah, or either it hits the upright and goes in, or it hits the upright and goes out, or whatever hits the crossbar. Like it's just you can't just keep counting on the ball to bounce your way in the NFL. I did get back on my stat hunt there for a second because I like these Bucs. This is where I think the Bucs are interesting, especially if they get some more guys in the secondary back, because they're making it hard on teams to throw the ball, which is what the Seahawks are doing as well. In net yards per pass attempt, make sure I got this for the whole season. They're fourth, like 5.7. So that net yards include sacks. So I was like, okay, how often are they getting to the quarterback then? Check this sack rate, 9.8. That's also fourth. Like teams are having some issues moving the ball, through the air. And as much as I mentioned that Pete Carroll would look at the Seahawks, look at the Bucs in the way they kind of go about offense with their 45-year quarterback throwing it all the time. Geno Smith is throwing it all the time too. They're right there, top 10 in neutral down pass as well. So this is why I'm projecting a low scoring game. I think the Bucs defense with the way they can. The way that Vita Vea and Hicks can plug some holes, and the way this secondary can fly around and make it hard on quarterbacks, it should be interesting. One last thing, Greg.
The crazy thing.
The
crazy thing to watch.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say the crazy thing to watch is takeaways. In that the Bucs defense is very much predicated on turnovers, takeaways, and they've had none for 5 straight games, which is like impossible in the NFL. Not a single takeaway for 5 straight games. The NFL record is 6. So if they go Munich and back without one, they've got it. And it's just it's crazy. Like I was looking, and it's like in the Bucs history to win a game scoring 16 and not forcing a turnover is really hard to do. Like normally, if you got a low scoring game, it's because you took the ball away 4 and 5 times. So like in Bucs history, it's just the 4th game that they've scored that few points, haven't forced a turnover, and won. So 4 times in 47 years. Again, you can't. That can't be your game plan, right? You can't do that with any consistency. So Seattle, again, if you can avoid the turnovers, that's a huge step towards having a good chance against this Bucs team, the way they've gone.
Ooh, that's another good. Okay, let me see if I got a stat for that.
Yeah, I'm out of stats.
The Bucs are 31st in turnover rate on defense. Looks like they are only better than. That can't be right. They're better than the Eagles? That's crazy. Yeah.
Eagles are like
turnover
15 or something, right? Yeah.
Maybe I'm looking at that wrong. Uh-oh. All right. Disregard that one.
Okay.
I might have jumped the gun there. But the one thing, when you mentioned his name, I almost forgot about him. Jamel Dean. You said he's one of their best corners. I will never forget the game he played here in 2019, here being Seattle.
Got destroyed.
Just barbecued the whole game.
Metcalf just scored again.
And now,
that was like Jamel. That was like his baptism by fire. Like they're going to keep him out there. They're going to make sure he knows what this feels like. And it was, again, roasted, like you said. I forget what it was, but it was at least 2 long touchdowns on him. He's been really good. Size and speed, plays with confidence. He's going to be a coveted free agent this spring because the Bucs are in all kinds of cap hell next spring, and he'll be a free agent. I think they'd like to keep him, but he'll be very much the same way. Carlton Davis got like $15 million a year this past spring for them. Jamel Dean will do well in free agency, I think, this spring.
Yeah, it's just one of those random NFL things. It's always gonna blow my mind is watching 35 just get worked up and down the field by DK and Tyler. And then I think after that, his numbers, like just from that game on, were nuts, right? Like his rookie year, like just from that game on, I think that was week 9, week 10 on, it was like, oh, this guy's like a stud.
Right. He got rid of it all in one game.
Yeah, he gave up everything he's gonna give up right then. You tell Bruce Arians, let Bruce have a bad game. I won't happen again, I promise. And then just comes lockdown after that. It's I'll never forget it because I was thinking, man, this 35 dude's a scrub.
He's got crazy, he's got crazy speed too. The Bucs in the I forget which game it was now, but they had a kickoff return against him where guy went like 87 yards. And Jamel Dean out of nowhere. It's one of those like the horse race where you don't even realize the guy's in the picture and just came down and took him, hit like 22 miles an hour. We were joking in the locker room, like you don't want to have to show off your speed chasing somebody down on a kickoff return, but he did it. And that definitely in terms of being able to keep up with some really gifted, speedy receivers on Sunday, he's got the legs for that for sure.
All right, yeah, I'm just looking. That's a random thing I'm just looking forward to, and it'll be just hilarious either way. If he's like locked down in this game against Munich, it'll be funny considering what happened last time. Or if he's barbecue chicken, which I doubt he'll be. But if that happens again, then it's like, oh my God, okay, the Seahawks just have this guy. It's just fascinating. Good luck.
And he'll remember it. We're not going to have to remind him, hey, what happened last time in this game? So that's a motivation, but it's also the same guy that might be running past him. So who knows?
Yeah, no, that's a random subplot that like probably only the three of us and Jamel and his family are going to be paying attention to on Sunday. That's a fun one. Greg, that's all we have for you.
Oh,
man.
one more. I'm sorry, one more. Greg, before we get you out of here, over or under. I don't know if you remember we did this last time, but give me an over under Tom Brady 280.5 passing yards and 1.5 touchdowns. What you got?
Those are both good.
Over on the yards, easy. He'll get those yards, win or lose. I feel good about the yards there. Touchdowns are not a Tom Brady thing. It's so funny to say he's got 720 touchdowns in his career, and I'm like, I don't know if he can get 2 against the Seahawks. I guess I'll say 2. I'll say over because he could get 2.
All right.
And it still could be a bad game. I would say. I mean, he's had 10 passing touchdowns in 9 games. It's like, okay, got one, good to go. Where in the first 2 years, it's like 4 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns. Brady's got 40 touchdowns his first year, 43 his second year. And I felt like super optimistic, pegging him at like 25 for the year by giving him whatever it is, 15 touchdowns in his remaining 8 games. So I'll take the over, but it's a wobbly over. Over on both.
Perfect. Got it. I got it written down. We got you over on both. We will see how this all fares up. Mike, you want to wrap this up?
Yes, I do. Man, the rate that Tom Brady throws is pretty crazy. I just can't believe it. His arm is going to fall off in week 17. I'm calling it. The Bucs actually are 22nd. The Bucs are 22nd in turnovers forced per drive, which is not that bad. I was reading the stat backwards. I was reading it through the off months. Yeah, because that's why Philly was so high. I was like, that makes sense.
5 of those are Saints in week 2. That's the other thing. If you take that 1 week out, it like cuts them in half.
Okay.
And those were Jameis too, right? Didn't he just implode in the fourth of that game?
4 turnovers in the fourth quarter. That was Jameis reverting back to his worst version of himself.
Oh boy, yeah.
So much for the LASIK.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
that was the thing. LASIK was such
Bucs.
My favorite thing with Jameis is talking about LASIK and how it's going to help him out. He's talking to reporters in New Orleans, and he's explaining that with LASIK, the one thing about LASIK, he says, to explain why it helps him, is that if you're hit by an uninsured motorist, you can see their license plate as they drive away.
Only Jameis.
All right, well, okay, well, that's good. If that happens, you can definitely get their plate. It also might help you see receivers downfield and know where the DBs are.
Here?
Yeah, or license plates, whatever.
30 for 30. I get it.
Both are useful, I guess.
I was there for all of it.
Yeah. Oh man. Also, one of my favorite NFL seasons, Greg, is the Jameis 30 for 30 season, man. Just great. I was in the press box checking Jameis's box score every week religiously.
Ended the season with a pick 6 to lose the game. That was his on the way out last pass as a Buck. Poetry.
Oh,
you can't make it up.
No, you really
can't.
His
His first pass also a pick 6. It was great.
Yeah, I remember that against the Titans, I think. Yeah.
Yep.
Unreal. Just
sensible.
Beautiful, man. Shout out to Jameis. That I promise this time, Greg, is the last thing we had for you. We appreciate you giving us some time. Appreciate all you guys tuning in to the Seahawks Man to Man podcast. Our YouTube viewers, Spotify, Apple, The Athletic, wherever you're getting it. We appreciate the love. I'm Chris, or that's Chris. I'm Mike. That's the first time I ever screwed that up. That's our guest, Greg Auman. Greg, thank you. I will see you in Munich. To our listeners, we will catch you guys.
It's so cool to be able to say that.
I know, right?
Chris, thank you,
that's
man.
amazing.
You're in Germany.
We'll catch you guys later this week. And until then, we're out.